Well, here we are again, Patrick. We're a little late kicking off the season. We wanted to give it a couple of games to see what was going on. We begin again. I can't even.
There's a joke there, isn't there?
Well, there is. There's lots of jokes, but here we go. Let's jump. People don't want to hear us banter. Let's jump right into it. The 2025-2026 Vancouver Canucks.
Yes.
Explain.
Well, I'm glad you put it that way. No, I've thought a little bit about. I mean, we're talking on Wednesday, and the Canucks play Thursday, Friday. After having gone 1-2 to open the season, a pretty nice win last week at home against a not very good Calgary Flames team, and then looked pretty poor against a very good Edmonton Oilers team, and I think a more intriguing than people realize St. Louis Blues team. And everyone's like, And Thatcher Demko snapped a little bit at Jeff Patterson on Tuesday when Jeff sort of said, "You guys need to reset." And Demko was like, we're really already here? And I think I get where he's coming from, although I don't think he's coming from the same place I'm about to go to, which is that in the end, I said off the top, this is a fourth place team. Yeah, it's a playoff team, but it's a fourth place team. Like, this is not a winning you're in team or winning anything can happen team. This is a team that is very flawed, does not have enough depth up front. Has an interesting enough defense core, but has a rookie head coach who, all the nice things we maybe have said about Adam Foote and how far he's evolved. Like, in the end, this is a huge challenge, bigger than anything he's ever dealt with before. Obviously, had a sparkling NHL career, but has done nothing as a coach. So it's a team that's a little bit undergunned, has huge questions over its number one center. It's a fourth place team. It will go as far as Thatcher Demko and Quinn Hughes can take it. And I wrote this on Saturday or Sunday morning in my Canucks Coffee. Was that yes? I mean, Thatcher Demko is great. This is great. He's a great story, and he and Quinn Hughes are very important. And if they can get the third part of that triumvirate ready to go, if they can get Elias Pettersson not just playing fine, which he's been fine, but playing like the star, the Thomas Muller or Nathan Rourke, to give. I mean, I don't think we've given Nathan Rourke enough credit here. By the way, I've talked a lot about Muller, but I'm going to talk more about Rourke now as my comparison points. Like there are two offensive stores on other teams who are making a difference, and Elias Pettersson needs to be that guy because Quinn Hughes can't do everything. So yes, I mean this team is exactly where I think realistically, I mean you would like them to have gone 2-1. You would like them to beat St. Louis at home. The Canucks need to win at home. But this is a team, realistically, that is not a playoff contender. It is a playoff team, I think, but it is not a contender.
We hear cliches all the time pop up, and they're cycled through in media, and one of the big ones now is vibes, right? However, and this is not a shot at anyone out there. It's just I'm old, and I've been doing this for a long time. Seriously... There's a lot of people now who consider themselves media, right? But one of the benefits to someone who's a trained journalist who is going to the rink and talking to players is you pick up on the mood. And there were a couple of times, like, obviously there was a lot of stuff off the record that wasn't sourced over the disaster that was last year. Right. But it was always like, it's not good in the room, right? Like, guys are snapping, no one wants to be there. Yeah. And the talk of this training camp, like one of the things I did find interesting was when you look at, all this internal talk about like what's going to happen with Hughes. He wants to play with his brothers. To see Demko, Besser come back willingly, happily. We know that like Hughes and Patterson have been tight since he joined this is a good crew. And the word from everyone who was around the team in preseason was the vibes are good. Yeah. Yeah. Now we're already 3 games in, and Demko's snapping at people. And granted, like, that's to ask for a reset after 3 games in is a little bit, maybe it's a little bit leading. Yeah. But what is the mood of this team? Is the chemistry there? Like, Tocchet was a big part of their success 2 years ago. Now you are talking about a new coach who's more hard nosed. But what's your sense from being around the team of how this group's chemistry is?
I it's a work in progress, but certainly you're not wrong to have picked up on that. It was on the whole, chattier, I would say. It feels like a new... It does feel like a new vibe. I mean, some of that is... There is a bit of a turnover here. There is a bunch of young guys on this team. Obviously, Braden Coots has been sent away, which is fine. He got a taste of the NHL. And I thought there was a chance they would string him along, try to get him 9 games, and maybe get him to the World Junior Camp and then send him back. But the mood on the whole is good. Like, there's just sort of a better sense of self, I guess. I think about Archie Baines, who, is in his 4th season as a pro player. And he and I had a really nice conversation. I'm going to say the last Friday of preseason, so almost 2 weeks ago now. And one of the things he said was that, he in himself has a better understanding of where he's at and what he needs to be and what he needs to do. And he's a guy that when he was first here, he was like every young player, careful to not cause any problems. Wanted just sort of kept his head down, show up, show he can do it, but not risk doing anything that might seem put a step wrong. And then his second year, okay, I got a better lay of the land. I know what I'm going to be. I have to now go in and have not just be a minor leaguer, but a guy who can show he's moving towards making a step towards the NHL. And then last year he comes in to try to reinforce that and say, listen, I am ready. And he got some games. And then he came in this year with, he could read the lineup card. There's a spot there for me. I have to make sure that, I reward the faith that this team has. And so, a quiet confidence and feeling like you're getting trusted to be a guy. And I would say that's a pretty broad-based feeling. And you can see, Marcus Patterson, we haven't talked a lot about, but This is his first full season, right? Like, he came in. There's a reason why they brought him in. They wanted him to help sort of set a tone. Jake DeBrusk, this is his second year. You think about Jake. I wrote a story a little bit about this in training camp and talked a bit about his stick. And one of the things he talked about was just he didn't like how his forechecking worked last year, and wanted to be more effective on the forecheck. And it was just like there's just sort of a better. Here's what I am. Here's what I need to do, and they're certainly, at least right now, in a better place. And I was joking all training camp, well, they haven't lost a game yet either, right? Like, of course they feel upbeat. So it is interesting to see how they manage their way through here. I mean, this is not an easy road trip. Start in Dallas, go to Chicago, play in Washington. There's some tough teams here. And so there's lots of challenges in front of them. It'll be interesting to see, no matter what the results are, but how this team comes back. How do they feel like they played? How do they feel like they are on their journey? And does it match with the sort of hopes and ambitions they started the season with?
So a lot of talk in other sports, in particular football, and I'm thinking maybe international soccer, where there's all this talk about coaching trees, influence.
Yeah.
Like you have an innovator and then all these sort of disciples down the road. So I don't think you see it as much in hockey, but certainly Adam Foote close to Rick Tocchet, but It's only 3 games in. I don't put countenance in anything we saw in the preseason, but 3 games in, what differences, if any, do you see between a team marshaled by Foote as opposed to what we saw under Rick Tocchet?
Well, I mean, obviously much looser, right? Like Foote wants his teams to, quote, make better, to play more on reads, like what's in front of you, where are your guys? Tocchet's style was much more disciplined, much more when the puck is here, there should be a guy here and a guy there, whereas Foote's a little more, these guys know how to play hockey. And I think we've seen the difference so far, which is that the Canucks certainly are playing a lot looser. Can that be sustained defensively? I don't know. That's going to be the big question mark. And, we've seen really good shifts from the Hedl line. We've seen, obviously, Hedl's line have some bad shifts, some bad turnovers. Kiefer Sherwood has been pretty consistent. He's been doing what he does. One of the things I did last weekend was I went and I went back to watch. I just wanted to remind myself of where things were, and I went back and watched some of the game 1 of the 2024 playoffs, and I forgot how much Kiefer Sherwood was present for the Predators. I mean, I liked the way he played. When they signed him, I was like, oh, that's a nice player to add to your team. He has been exactly that guy. Like, he has been on the puck. He obviously scored a couple goals. Like, he has been a quality player doing exactly what they need. And they need that kind of spark more generally, I would say. And is that because the game is loose, or is Sherwood thriving? I think Sherwood is just playing the way he plays. It's going to be interesting. Obviously we've seen a lot of Evander Kane. Like, he's being used in exactly the way they wanted to use him. Is it going to be effective? I don't know, but like as a physical presence, he's been evident. But you need to get your top line going, and you need to get your bottom 4 defensemen going, and it can't just be Quinn Hughes, Philip Hronik, and your goalie. You need so much more. So, like, that is the challenge in front of Foote, and I mean, I've said this elsewhere, but I think there is an X factor in his coaching staff. Kevin Dean and Brett McLean have lots of experience as minor league head coaches. Does that necessarily mean they're ready for the NHL? I don't know. But there are guys for Foote to draw on here for advice, and one of the I would say one of the strengths I always thought Rick Tocchet had was that he was openly acknowledged that maybe he didn't know, that he thought he had these ideas and he thought they would work, but he was constantly trying to figure out, okay, maybe that's not, maybe I'm overthinking this, maybe I'm doing too much, and he certainly appreciated Foote as a sounding board in that experience. It's going to be a question with Foote on whether he can be that kind of coach. How much is he learning as he goes? We know that the Cologne experience did not go well. I think he learned from that. Certainly he's referenced it in the past as if he has learned from that experience. But at that same time, he's only got a couple seasons as an NHL assistant coach under his belt. Got credit for running good practices. Tocchet thought he ran good practices. I would say their practices, I mean, I don't never really know what I'm looking at, but they've been brisk and crisp, and the players seem upbeat, and they've run some drills, and every once in a while I'll ask them, well, how was this drill? They go, oh, it's fun. They like, so, like, do they translate into winning? We'll see.
Yeah. So what you're saying is under Foote they have to take baby steps.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to have so many Foote puns this season. But I do want to ask you, obviously there's so much focus on, as you said earlier, it's Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko.
Yeah.
But
and should be Elias Pettersson, to be clear.
Well, that's what. Okay,
right,
so that's what I'm getting at. Like,
yeah.
If and we talked about this a lot last year. I am stunned by how quickly this team, when you looked at the first half, really, like 2 seasons ago, and then into the playoffs, how much they were this juggernaut with all these great pieces. Obviously, we know JT Miller removed from the situation now for the disaster that was last season.
Yeah.
But this was a team that had an identity and a confidence and, dare I say, a swagger. And everyone is waiting for Patterson to rediscover both a scoring touch and also that confidence on the ice.
Right.
I don't know, Patrick, how long do we wait? Like, as you said, he's fine, but he's not being paid to be fine. You're not going to win a Stanley Cup with him being fine. If this team is going to win a Stanley Cup, it has to. He has to get back to being an elite player. Like, Absolutely. How long do we wait?
I don't think you can wait much longer. I mean, you need him to shoot the puck. The fact he has. I went and looked at some of the numbers. His numbers are pretty. I mean, he's played 3 games. The numbers through 3 games are actually pretty good, despite everything, except for one thing: he's not shooting, and they need him to shoot.
And you talked about that all year last season.
Yeah,
this is what I mean. Like, you've had an off season, you've had a preseason. Like, when is this correction coming?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, and it needs. I mean, I think. I wonder. I wish I'd had a chance to ask him about. I mean,
Steve Ewan did ask him about it yesterday, and he said, "I need 3 shots a game."
Yeah, no, he knows it. I meant there was a particular moment in St. Louis game where he ends up with the puck near the net, and the goalie's out of the net, and he could have turned and tried to fire it. Now there was a defenseman taking the lane away, so it would have been a difficult opportunity, and he looked at it quickly and said, "I think Brock Besser has a better chance." And I get it, but that's kind of one of those ones. Like, be selfish. See if you can score here. Like, it is
you
that
talked
moment.
about Thomas Muller. That's
Yeah.
And even Nathan Rourke, right? Selfish quarterbacks sometimes will force the ball into areas. Selfish strikers
Make it
will
happen, right?
not make the pass, will take that chance.
Yeah.
And it applies in all sports.
It's
Game
so
winners
strange.
are game winners.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like, you look at that, go back. I mean, it's crazy. His first goal in the NHL, like, he was roaring down the ice, and he hit the gap, and he took advantage, and he made it happen. Partly it was that he anticipated, and some of it is he just doesn't seem to anticipate quite the same way anymore. And maybe that's just okay. That's but that's not good enough, because in the end
it's impossible.
He's their number one center, and they need him to be more.
It's impossible to get into a guy's head, but you would think logic tells you that that's not something that goes away. Like, physically, you can be diminished, or mentally you're struggling from confidence, but your anticipation, how you read the game, should not disappear.
No.
So I think that's the frustrating part for Canuck fans.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
So if not him, where did the goals come from? Because that's always been the issue with this team.
Yeah, and Filipino had the great game last Thursday, and then was not very good on Saturday, and like the rest of the team, was not very good on Monday. And that's been kind of the Filipino experience for his career. Like, he's got a couple good games or a good game, and then kind of goes away. Connor Garland's going to be Connor Garland, and like, is Evander Kane going to get 20 goals for this team? If they can get 20 goals out of Evander Kane, they're going to be really happy, because there's a lot of reasons why such thing would happen. But they have the power play, which looks so good in preseason, has not looked good enough in the regular season. Where are the goals going to come from? I mean, it's going to be a grind them out. This is again that sort of dilemma why I think they want to try to find another center. Is they just think that they need another center who can push things, and obviously every team in the NHL is looking for that kind of guy. But can they? Filipino as a third line center looks pretty good. Second line center probably asking too much.
I did see rumors already this morning. We've introduced a few new features this year.
Yeah.
Canuck Fan Council is excellent. We've got some typical fans, and we'll use them for stories throughout the season. But every game, it seems like there's some good banter going on there, so that's good. Another one is this Canucks Live, where we bring you highlight news that we see everywhere from the Canucks during the day. And I saw trade rumors already with the Canucks in Buffalo.
Again.
Yes. What's your sense of this season? I know last year there was a lot of talk around both salary cap and assets, like what can you move? What's your sense of how active the Canucks Brain Trust is going to be? Are there big moves there to be made? Do they have the chips to make the moves they want? I have confidence in this front office that they're very smart in terms of moving things around to either make space or acquire pieces that they can move elsewhere. But overall, how do you see change coming for this team this year?
Well, it's challenging, right? Like, if you're going to move anybody, it's a guy like Lekarmaki, it's a guy like Villander. They're not going to want to move Coots. The chips are, I suppose, deep. Elias Junior Patterson. It's tough. It's tough to read, really. Like, they don't have a lot of chips, and that's part of their problem. And there have been efforts over previous seasons to get other players. They were really hard after Jake Gensel when he was available 2 seasons ago, and simply they did what they offered just wasn't up to snuff. Like, they couldn't match what Carolina ended up offering. And this is a manager, like Jim Rutherford is a guy who's always loved making trades. And
sooner rather than later, right?
And sooner rather than later,
always waits till the deadline.
They've made a pretty consistent pattern of making early season trades, and so there's every reason to think they'll try to do that again. But what they have available to them, or what they've made, is kind of their own making. They traded a haul for Elias Lindholm 2 years ago, and they're in a spot again where they'd like to. That's the kind of player they would like to get. But do they? I don't know if they really have the bits. They have some. Steve, you and I were talking about the prospects. Our prospects power ranking, and just sort of, after the first sort of three, really, like it's a tough call. Like you got Coots, you got Verlander, you got like Andre or Alexei Medvedev, the goalie, who's years away from playing, but still an intriguing prospect. You got some, Riley Pastor and Anthony Romani, and Kirill Kudryavtsev. Like the sort of rest of the prospects they have are like, these guys will be interesting on the edge of the roster. They'll be sixth defensemen. They'll be, 11th forwards. But there's no, other than Coots and Lecker-Mackey, who's obviously already in the NHL, and Tom Verlander, who you would hope will be in the NHL soon. There's just not a lot there.
It always comes home to roost, doesn't it? I mean,
well, it's the second round pick thing, right? And like this isn't just on the current group. The fact that they spent so long, and Jim Benning especially spent so long trading away second round picks. Yeah, exactly. But trading away second round picks, like it's just that's where you find some of your more interesting prospects. And as we know, passing up on Logan Stankoven to get Danilo Klimovich, who's still in the organization, ambitiously gave himself number 9 in training camp. It's just the dearth of second. I mean, Niels Hoaglander's a second round pick. That should tell you everything right there.
They traded away a bunch of first rounders too, Patrick. There's no doubt that hollows out your organization.
Vasily Podkolzin, they probably should have held on. Listen, there are lots of examples in here why there's just not a lot to work with, and it's mostly of their own making.
Okay, now you said they're a playoff team, but they're not a contender. So predictions for how this season will go.
Well,
MVP,
team MVP.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wrote a little bit on the weekend. I mean, it should be Quinn Hughes, right? But I think if Thatcher Demko's playing the way he's played, there's a case for him to push for team MVP, and that would be more of a contextual win because I think it's going to be hard to match Quinn Hughes' just all around outstanding form.
Yeah.
But the way that Demko has performed has given them a chance, right? Like they had no business being in that game on Saturday night, and they were in it because of Thatcher Demko. So, like that's a great sign. Like that fundamentally is what this team is going to be. Is going to have to punch its way through some difficulties and find some wins that are unexpected, and you get those from your goalie, and you get that from your superstar captain, and then hopefully from their number one center.
Yeah. So all right. Well, let's get to it. Who do you think their leading goal scorer is going to be? I
mean, I think the leading goal. I think it'll be Brock Besser. Besser's had a nice start. I mean, he hasn't necessarily looked spectacular, but it's not how you do it. It's when you do it, and he's put 2 goals up in 3 games, right? Like it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
Like he's played well. So.
Quinn Hughes back in the Norris conversation this year, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Although, I mean, I hope it doesn't mean anything, but I will admit that I have in my back pocket, if things go wrong, the fact that Game 1 last Thursday started with a Quinn Hughes turnover, you just hope that's not an omen of something else.
Well, I mean, all season that's going to be the conversation, but it's going to be based on the Canucks' fortunes. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
All right. So you said they'll make the playoffs. Do you think they're capable of winning 1 round, 2 rounds?
I mean, if they finish 4th, then they're playing a division winner, right? So you're playing Edmonton, play Dallas, perhaps if you cross over. Can they beat either of those teams in the 7-game series? I have a hard time seeing it. I think this is a team that's at one and done.
I look at Edmonton and okay, credit to them, they've got to the finals the last 2 years, but and I know it was 1 game, but their opening night against the Flames was the last 3 seasons for them in a nutshell. I think a hot Thatcher Demko, and so that's what you do hope for in the playoffs, right? But health and so many other things, health and special teams, big part of that. Right. Wrap it up in a second. Couple other things I want to cover. Anything else new that fans should know about? New in the arena, paying $33 a beer now or whatever it is. At least they have 25. Beer with the strike going on. It's $25 a beer.
Well, that's a large beer.
Okay.
$25.
We like
for a
large
sandwich.
beers. Yeah.
You know, it's.
But anything else new? The experience going to the rink?
I mean, I appreciate the new hype video. I mean, I liked it. It's a different look at it. It's, you know, the fans bringing the players home, cheering them home, helping them guide their way back from space. You know, it's they just need to win, man. Like it's not that coming. The Larscheider's back. That's good. I think 8 games I saw. Yeah, like the fundamental truth for this team is: are they winning? You know, and are people having a good time? Are people feeling like they're getting value for their money? Because the money that they're being asked to pay more than ever. You know, the prices that are charged. The rationale is that, well, you got to get new seats. Don't you want new seats? So the fans, you know, the framing is that the fans have an investment in all this. They're not treated like that. And the players don't know that.
Is that the framing? Is that where the cost comes from, Patrick? You know, could there be an ownership buyout situation and legal bills to pay? I don't know. I'm just saying. Seats, lawyers. Yeah, you got to pay for it one way or the other if you're a Canucks fan.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, the wins are what matters. Fans want to go see wins and enjoy themselves and have a laugh and you know, $25 a beer. It's getting harder and harder, I suppose.
Little bit insider. I'm not sure anyone will care. We're having a get together soon with our former columnist Ed Willis, turned 70, and I bring that up because Ed wrote a couple of highly entertaining books. Last year, Canucks Never Boring. Previous years, some amazing hockey stories in his book Rebel Years on the WHA. Over your shoulder, I see a copy of a book on Gino. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful project. Obviously, you know, the impetus was sad. We lost Gino almost 3 years ago now. But yeah, his friend Peter Leach approached me in late 2023, and Peter and I ended up working on it together, signed a deal with Greystone Books, and, you know, it's now out on bookshelves. You can find it at well, I found it in Indigo, but it's at, sure, independent bookstores as well. You can find it online. And yeah, it was just a fascinating person. I mean, I was 9 when Gino made his debut in 1990, and I still, you know, vividly remember sort of the excitement of that year. And then Pavel Bure shows up a year later. So, you know, it was an interesting time. The premise that I kind of realized was, we talked so much about that March 1991 trade that brought in Jeff Courtnall, Cliff Ronning, Sergio Mamesco, Robert Durkis, that's sort of the trade that turned the team around. But I really started thinking about what Pat Quinn was trying to do with that era of team. And I think really, and I make the claim, or I make the case in the book, and Trevor Linden agreed with me, that the real turning point for that team, for the team that became that sort of much beloved 1994 team, sorry Paul, I know you love the 82 team, the much beloved 94 team was Gino making the Canucks in November 1990. You know, obviously getting in 2 fights in his first game, but just the energy and the sort of character that he brought to that team. You know, the fun story in it being that, you know, he fights Dave Manson early in the third period of that game against the Blackhawks, and then with about 5 minutes to go, gets in a fight with Stu Grimson. And but you know, by the time the fight's over, there's less than 5 minutes to go in the game, so they send him and Grimson to the dressing room, and Gino, who has literally played his first game in the NHL, right, and is basically a nobody to these guys, looks at Bob McCammon as he's sort of being escorted back down the tunnel and says, "Don't F this up." And, you know, just to howls, absolute howls. And so as I assemble this book and I'm talking to his former teammates, and when you talk to former teammates, talk to young people he inspired, talk to some of his family, talk to his great friends, but his former teammates, the way their eyes would light up, they loved this guy. And, you know, there's the old story, don't, you know, never meet your heroes, right? And, you know, listen, Gino was not perfect, but, you know, going to this year, I was like, okay, what am I going to find out that isn't great? And to be perfectly honest, Gino was a class act. And like I said, sad that the way the book came about, because he would have written a far better book, and I would have happily helped him do that. Yeah. But he was a fascinating, brilliant, truly truly pan-Canadian story. He's a person that every Canadian, I think, should learn about because of sort of his heritage, who he became, what he represented, what he was trying to do, how he was trying to help people, how he was so much more than just a hockey player. I'm really proud of what Peter and I were able to put together, and I encourage people to go out and buy my book.
Yeah, I'm encouraged to read it. And we'll probably do a separate article or video on this because I think it's a great subject. I don't think the 82 team was better. I think they were more interesting. I just question sometimes the place that the 94 team holds in people's hearts. But part of that is, and we do have to end it here. We've gone on a long time, so thank you for sticking with us. But as we will talk about your book more in future videos, you know, when you talk about chemistry and you talk about vibes, I don't think you can undersell the power of the friendship between Gino and Pavel.
Oh, yeah.
And what that was, you know, you talk about the ultimate superstar and the guy who was the game breaker on the ice with the muscle to back it up. But the fact that those two guys really had this wild connection, that speaks to the vibes in a locker room and how that chemistry does take place.
Absolutely. So, entire just on that, there's, you know, I've been literally an entire chapter just on Bure. Like, he just, because he's so central to the Odjick story. And Odjick was so central to the Pavel story here. And you know, they were two guys who came from a long way away, from different ends of the sort of urban spectrum. I mean, Pavel Bure comes from, obviously coming from communist Soviet Union, but coming from Moscow, a massive city, to Vancouver, which at the time was a quaint little West Coast outpost, but still compared to where Gino came from, a much bigger place. And so for Gino, coming to the big city was an experience in itself. And for Pavel, coming to a smaller city and a new culture was an experience. And so they found each other in you know, coming from sort of opposites milieus, if you will. And we're both two young guys. I mean, someone else pointed this out. I mean, there weren't a lot of sort of young single guys on the team, so it was inevitable. But just Gino made friends with everybody. And I'll actually leave with a final note about Ed Willis, because Ed is in the book a little bit. And, you know, when I was talking to Ed about Gino and sort of your character, you know, Ed doesn't come to the province until after Gino's been traded. So he did not live the Gino experience. I talked to Tony Gallagher a lot about the Gino experience, and Mike Beamish and Jim Jameson, who all covered him. But Ed noted how when Gino would come through Winnipeg, because, you know, Ed was working at the Winnipeg Sun, Gino would, oh, hey, Ed, how you doing? And Ed could never figure out how Gino would have known him. He said maybe he knew me from the Memorial Cup or something like that. And I just said, Ed, no, I think what it was that Gino simply knew everybody. He remembered who you were, and if you'd met him once or twice, he did it to me. Patrick, so great. If Gino met and greeted me, like, what are you talking about? And that's just who he was. His default setting was respect for you, and if you respected him back, he'd stick with you to the very end.
Okay, great stuff. Go check the book out. We'll probably do another video just on the book. We'll do one on best Canucks teams and, of course, everything that happens. Go to our site, theprovince.com or thevancouversun.com. You can sign up for our Canuck Report newsletter. So many new features this year. Prospect rankings, the daily Canuck Live compendium of everything in the Canucks universe. Patrick's got a weekly mailbag. We analyze the schedule every week with Ben Kuzma, and a bunch of other standing features and one-offs that we'll do throughout the year. So thanks for listening, everyone. We will talk to you next week.